Maya Chen stared at the massive holographic display floating before her, its ghostly blue light illuminating the cramped interior of her repair shuttle. The scan results made no sense. She'd seen plenty of derelict ships in her 15 years working the outer rim, but nothing like this. The vessel hanging in the void ahead of her defied conventional engineering. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, curves and angles blending in ways that shouldn't have been possible. No visible seams, no standard access ports, no obvious propulsion systems. Yet it was undeniably a ship, and an enormous one at that, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Control, are you seeing this? Maya adjusted her scanner's frequency, trying to get a clearer reading. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database. Copy that. Engineer Chen. Controller Harris's voice crackled through her comms. The consortium wants you to maintain distance until their research team arrives. Estimated 48 hours. Maya frowned, her eyes fixed on the mysterious vessel. Something about it called to her, like a whisper just below the threshold of hearing. She'd felt it the moment her shuttle had picked up the initial distress beacon, if you could call it that. The signal didn't match any known emergency protocols. Instead, it was a complex pattern of energy pulses that had somehow led her straight to this location. 48 hours, she muttered, running her fingers through her short black hair. That thing might not have 48 hours. The scans showed the vessel's power systems were highly unstable. Whatever incredible technology kept it functioning was failing, its energy signature fluctuating in increasingly erratic patterns. Chen, acknowledge instructions. Maintain distance. Maya's hand hovered over her shuttle's controls. The consortium might sign her paychecks, but she hadn't spent her life fixing impossible problems just to watch a technological marvel die because of bureaucratic delays. Sorry. Control. Breaking up. Must be interference. She clicked off her comm unit before Harris could reply. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as Maya guided it closer to the alien vessel. Up close, its hull seemed to shimmer with subtle iridescence, like oil on water. Her scanner's proximity alerts blared warnings about unknown energy fields, but she pressed forward. All right, she whispered, more to herself than to her shuttle systems. Let's see what you're trying to tell me. As if in response, a section of the hull directly ahead began to shift. Metal flowed like mercury, forming an opening just large enough for her shuttle to pass through. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The ship wasn't just active. It was responding to her presence. She eased the shuttle forward into what appeared to be a docking bay, though it bore little resemblance to any she'd seen before. The opening sealed behind her with the same liquid grace, and artificial gravity took hold. Maya ran through her shutdown sequence with practiced efficiency, her mind already racing with theories about the vessel's technology. The bay's atmosphere registered as breathable, if thin. Maya sealed her environmental suit anyway, standard procedure when dealing with unknown environments. As she stepped out of her shuttle, the bay's surfaces began to emit a soft, ambient light that followed her movements. Adaptive environmental systems, she noted aloud, her voice slightly muffled by her helmet. Still functioning after who knows how long. The deck beneath her boots hummed with barely perceptible vibrations. Not the normal mechanical rhythms of a working ship, but something more organic, almost like a pulse. Maya pulled out her personal scanner and began taking readings. Energy patterns are quasi-crystalline, she muttered, frowning at the results. But there's something else. Some kind of neural network running through the whole structure. A sudden surge of energy rippled through the deck plates. Maya stumbled, catching herself against her shuttle's hull. The ship's ambient lighting flickered, and for a moment, she could have sworn she felt recognition. The sensation passed quickly, but it left Maya with an unshakable certainty. This ship wasn't just a collection of advanced technology. It was aware. And somehow, impossibly, it had been waiting for her. Maya took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Okay, she said to the empty bay. You brought me here. Show me what needs fixing. The deck plates beneath her feet began to glow with a faint trail of light, leading toward an opening that had just appeared in the bay's far wall. Maya checked her suit's systems one last time, then started walking. With each step, she felt more certain that she was about to discover something that would change everything. She wasn't wrong. The passage led her deeper into the vessel's heart, through corridors that seemed to form themselves as she walked. Traditional engineering principles couldn't explain half of what she was seeing. The ship's systems appeared to operate on a fundamental level she'd never encountered before, not mechanical, not purely electronic, but something in between. After several minutes of walking, the passage opened into what she could only assume was some kind of control center. But instead of the expected banks of instruments or control panels, the circular chamber was dominated by a complex lattice of crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light. Maya approached slowly, her scanner working overtime to process the readings. The crystal matrix was the source of the ship's neural network, but it was damaged. Fracture lines ran through several key nodes, disrupting the energy flow. "So that's the problem," she murmured, studying the patterns. "Your consciousness is fragmenting." The ship's ambient hum changed pitch slightly, as if in confirmation. Maya reached out toward one of the damaged crystals, then hesitated. "I don't suppose you have a repair manual." The air in front of her shimmered, and a holographic display materialized. But instead of text or diagrams, it showed a series of complex energy patterns, more like music than engineering schematics. Maya stared at it, fascinated, as her mind began to grasp the underlying logic. "You don't think in terms of parts and systems," she realized. "It's all one continuous flow of energy. The crystals aren't components, they're resonance points." The hologram shifted, the patterns becoming more complex. Maya felt her excitement growing as she began to understand. The ship didn't need traditional repairs. It needed someone who could see the patterns, who could help restore the proper flow of energy through its neural matrix. And somehow, it had recognized that ability in her. Maya unslung her toolkit and began laying out her equipment. Standard repair tools might not be much use here, but she had a few experimental prototypes she'd been developing. Devices designed to manipulate energy fields in ways her employers hadn't quite approved of yet. "All right," she said, pulling out a crystal resonator of her own design. "Let's see if we can get you singing properly again." The ship's hum deepened, and Maya could have sworn she felt a flicker of gratitude. She smiled behind her helmet's faceplate and got to work, her fingers dancing across the crystalline lattice as she began to learn its songs. She had no idea that high above, the first consortium research vessels were already dropping out of hyperspace, or that her discovery was about to spark a chain of events that would reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. For now, there was only the work, the patterns, and the growing connection between a human engineer and an ancient vessel that had chosen her to help it live again. Time lost meaning as Maya worked within the ship's crystalline heart. Her experimental tools hummed in harmony with the vessel's neural matrix as she carefully redirected energy flows around damaged nodes, strengthening weakened connections and restoring broken pathways. With each repair, the ship's consciousness grew stronger, more coherent. The holographic displays around her had evolved from simple pattern sequences into complex symphonies of light and energy. Maya found herself understanding them with increasing clarity, as if the ship was teaching her its language. It wasn't just raw data. It was memory, history, encoded in the very resonance. The ship's consciousness brushed against her mind, urgent but gentle. More holograms appeared, showing her something new. Maya's eyes widened as she understood. "You have defenses," she said, "but you can't activate them until your neural matrix is stable." The crystal lattice pulsed in confirmation. Maya looked at her tools. The neural matrix pulsed with agreement, and Maya felt the ship's systems reconfiguring themselves around her, preparing for the journey ahead. She had come aboard looking for a simple repair job. Instead, she had found humanity's next great adventure. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, ancient powers were beginning to stir, sensing that the game had changed. The next 48 hours became a deadly game of cat and mouse through the Outer Rim's asteroid fields. Word of the ancient ship's reactivation had spread faster than Maya had anticipated, drawing attention from every major power in known space. The consortium's research fleet had been joined by hegemony warships, collective scout vessels, and dozens of independent operators hoping to claim the prize. Maya stood in what she now thought of as the ship's bridge, though it bore little resemblance to any command center she'd seen before. The crystalline lattice had expanded throughout the chamber, creating interfaces that responded to her thoughts as much as her actions. Through them, she could feel the pursuing vessels, their engines burning hot as they tried to track her through the debris field. "They're persistent, I'll give them that," she muttered, watching as another scanner probe swept past their hiding spot. The ship had wrapped itself in layers of energy that bent light and sensor readings around them, a form of stealth technology far beyond anything currently known. But it couldn't maintain the field indefinitely, not while still healing. The neural matrix pulsed with what Maya had come to recognize as concern. Through their strengthening connection, she felt its worry not for itself, but for her. The ship knew she hadn't slept more than a few hours since their escape, running on stimulants and determination. "I'm fine," she assured it, though the shadows under her eyes suggested otherwise. "We just need to stay hidden long enough to." A new alert flashed across her consciousness. Maya's heart sank as she recognized the energy signature. A hegemony dreadnought had just dropped out of hyperspace, less than 10,000 kilometers away. Its massive bulk turned ponderously, bringing weapons arrays to bear on their section of the asteroid field. "They're going to start shooting soon," Maya realized. "Try to flush us out." The ship's consciousness rippled with agreement. They had two choices: run or fight. But neither option appealed to Maya. Running would burn through power they needed for repairs, while fighting would reveal capabilities they couldn't afford to show. Not yet. Then Maya noticed something about the dreadnought's position. It was holding station near a particularly dense cluster of asteroids. Its sensors focused outward, but in doing so, it had created a blind spot. A very specific blind spot that tickled something in Maya's memory. "Show me the composition scan of those rocks again." The neural matrix complied, projecting detailed analysis of the asteroid cluster. Maya grinned as she confirmed her hunch. The rocks were rich in metamorphic minerals, the same type that had given her endless headaches during her early days maintaining mining rigs. "Those minerals mess with standard scanner calibrations," she explained to the ship. "That's why the mining corps had to develop specialized equipment. But the military never bothered updating their systems because they didn't think anyone would be crazy enough to fly through." The ship's consciousness brightened as it followed her reasoning. Maya felt its calculations racing ahead of her own, plotting trajectories that should have been impossible. The route would take them within meters of multiple asteroids, threading a path through gravitational forces that could tear them apart. "Like you said," Maya smiled, "sometimes you need a little chaos." "Ready?" The ship's response was to surge forward, its liquid metal hull flowing into an even more streamlined configuration. Maya's mind merged deeper with the neural matrix as they began their run, human intuition and advanced technology working in perfect harmony. They skimmed past the first asteroid close enough for its gravity to scratch harmonics from the hull. The dreadnought's sensors registered their movement, but the mineral interference turned their signature into a ghost, an echo that could have been anything. More ships were moving to intercept, but Maya was already plotting their next move. She fed navigational data from her mining days into the ship's systems, showing it all the tricks and hidden routes she'd learned the hard way. The neural matrix absorbed this knowledge eagerly, combining it with its own vast understanding of spatial mechanics. What followed was a dance that would have been beautiful if it hadn't been so terrifying. They wove through the asteroid field like water flowing through stones, each move precisely calculated yet seemingly random. The pursuing ships fired blindly, their weapons turning chunks of rock into expanding clouds of debris that only made tracking more difficult. Maya lost track of time. lost in the flow of movement and energy. The ship's consciousness guided her through maneuvers that should have crushed them with G-forces, its inertial fields adapting in ways she barely understood. Together, they weren't just evading their pursuers, they were teaching them the futility of the chase. Finally, after what felt like hours, they burst clear of the asteroid field's far side. The neural matrix surged with triumph as Maya checked their pursuit. The dreadnought and its escorts were far behind, still searching the wrong section of space. "Not bad for a patch job," Maya said, allowing herself to relax slightly. The ship's response was warm amusement, tinged with pride. Their jury-rigged repairs had held up better than either of them had expected, the hybrid of human improvisation and advanced technology proving remarkably robust. But their victory was short-lived. As the adrenaline faded, Maya became aware of new data flowing through the neural matrix. The ship had been analyzing the pursuit patterns, the coordination between different factions that should have been rivals. There was something wrong about it, something that suggested they're working together, Maya realized with growing dread. All of them. But why would they? The ship's consciousness darkened. More memories surfaced, fragments of the final days before the Transcended vanished. Maya saw fleets of ships much like this one, standing guard against something vast and terrible. She saw those ships falling silent one by one, their neural matrices going dark as the darkness between stars grew deeper. And now the descendants of those who had fled rather than face that darkness were desperate to claim this last guardian. Not to use it, but to make sure it could never be used. "They're afraid," Maya whispered. "They know what's coming, what's been coming all along, and they'd rather hide than fight." The neural matrix pulsed with grim confirmation, but there was something else in its response. A question, an offer, a choice. Maya could feel the weight of millennia in that unspoken query. The ship was giving her one last chance to walk away, to return to her simple life of repairs and survival. Maya thought about everything she'd seen in the ship's memories. The Transcended had been beautiful, powerful, nearly perfect, but they had still failed. Perhaps what was needed now wasn't perfection, but humanity's stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. "Well," she said firmly, "I didn't spend all that time fixing you just to give up now. Where do we go next?" The ship's consciousness brightened like a sun. New holograms appeared, showing her coordinates far beyond the outer rim. Something was waiting for them there, something the Transcended had left behind, a key to understanding the true nature of their enemy. Maya took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "All right then, let's go make some history." The ship's hull began to shimmer as it prepared for the jump to hyperspace. Behind them, the pursuit was already regrouping, but they would be too late. The next phase of the journey was beginning. And Maya Chen, human engineer, impossible problem solver, and now perhaps humanity's last hope, was ready to face whatever waited in the darkness between stars. The coordinates led them to the edge of known space, where the stars grew thin and the void between them stretched vast and empty. Maya stood before the ship's crystalline interfaces, watching as ancient star charts overlaid modern maps, revealing patterns that made her skin crawl. "The stars have moved," she murmured, tracing the paths of stellar drift across millennia. But not randomly. The neural matrix pulsed in agreement. Through their deepening connection, Maya felt the ship's growing certainty. The movement of stars in this region wasn't natural, it was deliberate. Something had been slowly, methodically, clearing paths through space itself. Their destination lay ahead, a binary system whose stars pulsed with an unnatural rhythm. As they drew closer, Maya's instruments detected massive gravitational anomalies that shouldn't have been possible. Space itself seemed to curve and fold around the system in ways that defied physics. "The Transcended built something here," Maya said, studying the readings. Something they thought was worth hiding even from their own kind. The ship's consciousness brushed against her mind, sharing more memories. Maya saw glimpses of vast construction projects, experiments with forces that could reshape reality itself. The Transcended had been searching for something, a way to fight an enemy that didn't play by the rules of normal spacetime. As they entered the binary system, Maya understood why the location had been chosen. The complex gravitational dance of the two stars created natural interference patterns that would hide anything in the space between them. Perfect for keeping secrets. The ship's sensors pierced the gravitational distortions, revealing their objective. A structure that hurt Maya's eyes to look at. It wasn't large, barely the size of her old repair shuttle, but it seemed to exist in more dimensions than should have been possible. What is it? She wondered aloud. The neural matrix's response was complex, mixing memory and theory and warning. The structure was a research facility, but also a weapon, a key, and a tomb. The Transcendent had discovered something here, something that had changed everything. But before they could use it, the enemy had found them. Maya felt a chill as the ship showed her the facility's final moments. The Transcendent had sealed it away rather than risk it falling into the wrong hands, encoding its secrets in patterns of gravity and light that only their ships could decode. And now we're the last ones left who can access it, Maya realized. That's why everyone's so desperate to stop us. They're afraid of what we'll find. The ship guided them closer, its hull resonating with frequencies that made Maya's teeth ache. The structure responded, its impossible geometries shifting to reveal an entrance that hadn't existed moments before. Maya checked her suit's seals one last time. Any idea what we're looking for in there? The ship's response was uncertain. The facility's contents had been compartmentalized, hidden even from the neural matrices of the ships meant to guard it. All it knew was that the answers they sought lay within. Right, Maya sighed. Because it couldn't be simple. She made her way to the airlock, her mind already running through possible scenarios. The ship's consciousness followed her, its presence reassuring despite its own uncertainty. Whatever they found, they would face it together. The structure's interior defied conventional architecture. Surfaces curved in ways that suggested other spaces just out of sight, and gravity shifted with each step. Maya's engineering mind struggled to make sense of it, but the more she tried to analyze it, the more her head hurt. Focus on the job, she reminded herself, one problem at a time. The ship's sensors guided her through the maze-like corridors, following energy signatures that pulsed like heartbeats. They found what they were looking for in a chamber that seemed larger on the inside than should have been possible. A single crystal, no bigger than Maya's fist, hung suspended in the center of the room. But as she approached, she realized she wasn't seeing the crystal itself. She was seeing its shadow, cast simultaneously through multiple dimensions. The neural matrix surged with recognition. This was what the Transcendent had discovered, what had changed everything. Maya reached out, not touching the crystal, but feeling its resonance through her suit's sensors. It's a key, she breathed. But not to a place. It's a key to understanding something. The ship's consciousness merged with hers, sharing the patterns it could see. The crystal wasn't just storing information. It was storing a way of thinking, of perceiving reality itself. The Transcendent had created it to help them comprehend their enemy, to see the universe the way it did. As Maya studied the patterns, pieces began falling into place. The enemy wasn't invading their universe. It was changing the rules that governed it, rewriting the code of reality itself. The Transcendent had found a way to see these changes, to potentially counter them, but the knowledge had driven them mad. That's why they disappeared, Maya realized. They couldn't handle it. Their minds were too perfect, too structured. They couldn't adapt to seeing reality break down. The ship's response was thoughtful. The Transcendent had achieved so much by thinking in perfect patterns, but those same patterns had become their weakness. They couldn't embrace chaos, couldn't accept a universe that didn't follow their rules. But humans were different. Maya thought about her jury-rigged repairs, about all the times human engineers had made impossible things work through sheer stubborn refusal to accept failure. Humans lived in chaos, thrived in it. We're not going to go mad, she said with growing confidence, because we're already a little bit crazy. The neural matrix brightened with understanding. This was why the ship had waited for a human engineer, not despite their imperfections, but because of them. The hybrid of human adaptability and transcended technology might be exactly what was needed. Maya carefully secured the crystal in a containment field. All right, let's get back to the ship end. An alarm shrieked through her suit's systems. Multiple vessels were dropping out of hyperspace. The pursuit had found them, but something was wrong. The ship's sensors showed the approaching vessels were moving erratically, their energy signatures distorted. They've been changed, Maya realized with horror. The enemy is already here. The neural matrix pulsed with urgency. They had to leave, had to understand what the crystal could teach them before it was too late. Maya ran for the airlock, her heart pounding as reality itself began to warp around them. The final battle was approaching, and the only hope of survival lay in understanding an enemy that defied understanding itself. But as Maya raced back to the ship, she felt a fierce grin spread across her face. After all, doing the impossible was what humans did best. Maya's hands flew across the crystalline interfaces as their ship accelerated away from the binary system. Behind them, the pursuing vessels moved in impossible ways, their hulls twisting into configurations that violated the laws of physics. The enemy wasn't just controlling them, it was rewriting them. "Show me what they're doing to space itself," she commanded. The neural matrix responded, overlaying her perception with patterns of gravitational distortion. What she saw made her breath catch. The enemy wasn't just moving through space, it was changing the fundamental constants that governed reality in its wake. The crystal they'd recovered pulsed in its containment field, its multidimensional resonance growing stronger as the chaos spread. Maya felt the ship's consciousness merge with hers more deeply than ever before, sharing its advanced understanding even as it accepted her human intuition. They're not just breaking the rules, she realized. They're introducing new ones. That's why the Transcended couldn't fight them. They couldn't adapt fast enough to changes in the basic laws of physics. A massive shockwave of distorted space-time erupted from the nearest pursuing vessel. Maya didn't try to calculate an evasion course. There wasn't time for math. Instead, she let instinct guide her, feeling rather than thinking their way through the chaos. The ship responded perfectly, its advanced technology translating her human impulses into impossible maneuvers. "We need to understand what that crystal's trying to tell us," Maya said, directing them toward a dense asteroid field. "But we need time." The ship's consciousness pulsed with an idea. It could handle the evasive maneuvers if Maya focused entirely on decoding the crystal's message. But doing so would mean opening her mind completely to both the ship's neural matrix and whatever the crystal contained. The risk of losing herself was high. Maya laughed. When has that ever stopped a human before? Do it. Their consciousness merged fully as Maya turned her attention to the crystal. Its dimensional resonance washed over her in waves of information too complex for any normal mind to process. But she wasn't processing it normally. She was feeling it, letting her human creativity find patterns in the chaos. The pursuing ships were getting closer, reality warping around them in increasingly violent ways. Through the ship's senses, Maya felt space-time stretching to its breaking point. The enemy was trying to change the rules faster than they could adapt. But that was it. That was the key. They can only change things gradually, Maya realized, the crystal's message finally becoming clear. They have to build up to major changes, but we can jump straight to impossible solutions. The ship's consciousness brightened with understanding. Together, they reached out to the crystal, not trying to understand its complexities, but simply accepting them. Maya felt reality shift around them as the crystal's power flowed through their merged consciousness. The pursuing ships faltered as their carefully calculated changes to physics met something completely unpredictable. Maya and the ship weren't trying to follow the rules or even break them. They were ignoring them entirely, running on human intuition and advanced technology working in perfect harmony. "Let's show them what chaos really looks like," Maya grinned. They dove straight toward the largest concentration of enemy vessels, the crystal's power flowing through their systems. Reality buckled around them, but instead of fighting it, they embraced the instability. The ship's hull flowed like liquid mercury, adapting to each change in physics before it fully manifested. The enemy ships tried to compensate, but they couldn't predict what Maya would do next because she wasn't planning. She was reacting, letting human instinct guide the ship's incredible technology. They spiraled through dimensions that shouldn't have existed, their wake disrupting the enemy's careful manipulations of reality. "You can't beat chaos with more chaos," Maya shouted as another enemy vessel twisted itself into an impossible shape trying to follow them. "That's humanity's whole secret. We thrive in it." The crystal's resonance reached a crescendo, and suddenly Maya could see the enemy clearly for the first time, not through sensors or calculations, but through the pure intuition that humans had evolved over millions of years of facing the unexpected. They weren't beings of higher dimensions or cosmic horrors. They were simply different, so devoted to their perfect patterns that they'd lost the ability to adapt. The transcended had faced the same fate, becoming so advanced that they couldn't comprehend anything that didn't fit their understanding. But humans were born adapting, born breaking rules and finding ways to make the impossible work. "Ready to try something really stupid?" Maya asked the ship. The neural matrix's response was immediate and enthusiastic. They had moved beyond simple cooperation into something entirely new, the perfect synthesis of human chaos and advanced technology. Maya pushed them straight toward the heart of the enemy fleet, letting the crystal's power flow unrestricted through their systems. Reality warped around them, but instead of trying to control it, they simply rode the waves of chaos. The enemy ships scattered, their perfectly calculated changes to physics shattering against the sheer unpredictability of human intuition. And then, at the perfect moment, a moment chosen by gut feeling rather than calculation, Maya released every bit of power they had in a single impossible burst. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. The crystal shattered, its multidimensional energies cascading outward in a wave that rewrote everything it touched. But unlike the enemy's careful manipulations, this change was pure chaos, powered by human creativity and determination. Reality snapped back like a rubber band. The enemy ships, so dependent on their precise calculations, couldn't adapt in time. One by one, they winked out of existence, their attempts to control chaos finally failing. When the light faded, Maya found herself laughing in pure exhilaration. The ship's consciousness wrapped around hers, sharing her joy and triumph. They had done the impossible not by mastering chaos, but by embracing it. "Think that's the last we'll see of them?" she asked, watching the last ripples of distorted space-time fade away. The ship's response was thoughtful. The enemy would return eventually. They always did. But now humanity knew their weakness. More importantly, humanity had proven that its greatest strength wasn't in following rules or breaking them, but in adapting to whatever the universe threw at them. Maya smiled as she felt the ship's systems humming with renewed purpose. "Well then," she said, "we should probably start looking for more humans who are good at ignoring impossible odds. Something tells me we're going to need them." The ship's consciousness brightened with agreement as they turned toward home. The real work was just beginning, but that was fine with Maya. After all, solving impossible problems was what human engineers did best. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, reality itself seemed to smile at the prospect of what this new partnership between human chaos and advanced technology might achieve.